Yo, what's up, guys? Teacher Polov here, and today we have a video. This is about Norway. So, everyone from Norway, let me know where you're at. Okay, so this is a coffee request. If you want to request a video, click over here or buy me a coffee. Link is in the description. Okay, so I hope no Norwegian gets offended by this, but this is a coffee request by Cecilia who says, "Hi, Paul. So I have noticed that I tend to be very outnumbered by all those Norwegians." Cecilia is from Denmark, by the way, and all their Danish jokes. So I figured you should hear from a Swede why he thinks Norwegian sounds silly. Oh boy, oh boy. I hope this does not start a war in the chat. Okay, guys, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hopefully nobody's gonna get angry in the comments. But let's go. This is why Swedes think Norwegian sounds silly. I didn't even know Sweden thought Norwegian sounds silly, but let's find out. Let's go.
So I was back in Sweden recently on holiday, and me and my girlfriend and my brother and a good friend of mine decided we were going to watch a film. A Norwegian film, in fact, to which my friend cried out, "No, Norwegian? Norwegian is the only language that I actually don't like how it sounds. I even like Danish. I think Danish sounds great, but Norwegian is just so silly." And yeah, I mean,
Why?
the language did perhaps add extra comedic value to the film. I don't think it was helped by the fact that the film was Netflix's Royal Teen, but still,
Royal
why
Teen.
do I, as a native
Is that a
Swedish
good movie?
speaker, find it impossible not to find Norwegian just a little bit funny? But what I
Let me just say one thing, guys. I'm reacting to a lot of Norwegian films. I have been. I think I'm at Norwegian movie number 6, I think. And I actually love it. I don't think it sounds funny at all, except when they do the Norwegian English, the Norwenglish, then that's funny. Yeah. I just watched today, There's Something in the Barn. And then, the Norwenglish over there was funny. The police woman and the character that Kalle was playing. It's pretty cool, pretty funny. And also Norsemen, they put on this Norwenglish. But okay, this is about Norwegian itself, not the Norwenglish. Let's go.
I don't find funny at all.
And also the Jule Nissan. Wait, the Jule calendar also, they have this funny Norwenglish. But okay, this is talking about the Norwegian language itself.
Just a little bit funny. But what I don't find funny at all is your data ending up in the wrong hands, which is why this video is sponsored by Incogni.
Oh,
When
come
you are
on.
out on the internet looking up linguistic facts, data brokers are there to collect your personal information, including your name, logins, associated addresses, and online activity, which they then sell for
I'm
profit
not
to marketing
sponsored by them, so. But if Incogni is watching, you can sponsor me
now,
as
of
well.
course, if you were to request companies to delete your data in the EU, UK, US, and Canada, they...
Speaking of, I didn't shout out the channel. This is from a channel called K Klein. K Little. So K Klein. Yeah, so okay. If you want to go and check the video without my reaction, the link is in the description.
They'd be legally required to do so. But where would you even start? Are you just going to spend the rest of your life tracking down and sending removal requests to every single company that has this? With Incogni, this is all automated, and anytime a new record pops up on a data broker site, Incogni takes care of it for you, sending as many requests as required to take back your data. All you need to do is create an account, grant them the right to work for you, and your bit is done. And if you use the code KKLINE when you sign up, you'll get 60% off an annual plan. Thank you to Incogni for sponsoring this video. Now, Swedish and Norwegian are North Germanic languages, descended from Old Norse. There are a few ways to classify language groups in general, and one is using a strict branching model, which typically looks at where languages become separated from each other historically, and there creates a separation. This leads to a classification that considers Swedish and Danish to be East Scandinavian, descended from East Old Norse, and Norwegian to be West Scandinavian, like Icelandic and Faroese, as it's descended from West Old Norse. Even this is a little simplified, as Old Norse was probably more of a dialect continuum than a set of languages with strict barriers, but there's a bigger problem here.
Wait, that's interesting, because I always thought that Swedish and Norwegian were similar. So I thought that the Swedes could understand the Norwegians without any problems. I thought Danish and Finnish were like so far apart, distant, So do the Faroese and the Icelandic understand Norwegian?
But there's a bigger problem here. Mutual intelligibility. See, another more day-to-day useful classification of these languages is into continental and insular. Because Norwegian is, because of Norway's geographical proximity and long-standing economic and political ties to Sweden and especially to Denmark, arguably more similar to Danish or Swedish than to Icelandic or Faroese. These continental Scandinavian languages can be said to have a degree of mutual
Okay.
intelligibility with one another, where
Okay.
speakers of one language can understand speakers of another and vice versa. This
Okay.
intelligibility isn't always what it's made out to be. It's often asymmetrical, with one side understanding more than the other, and usually the Swedes understand the least, and varies a lot by dialect, and it certainly isn't perfect. Speakers aren't likely to understand every word of what each other are saying, but this kind of communication definitely happens all the time. If two Scandinavians meet, even if they're from different countries, they can simplify their speech and speak a little slower and clearer than usual, and it will generally work out quite nicely. Reading Norwegian,
This is kind of like Portuguese and Spanish.
or Danish, is incredibly easy for most Swedes. And if you engage in the media of, or spend some time in one of your fellow Scandinavian countries, you can pretty quickly learn the key differences in vocabulary and get used to the sentence rhythm, and it just becomes easy.
Okay, let's look at the difference. Eat, spise, eat, otta. Okay, potato, potet. I can even understand it like non like because it's so similar to English. Angry, sint, arg, maybe, kanske, kanske, kanske. Potet, potatis, potatis. That's another question I have. Do you guys watch each other's media? Because he mentioned if you watch each other's media. And I never know if you guys, especially here on the channel, do you guys watch each other's movies, listen to each other's music? Because I feel like you do. I feel like this is something that you guys do very often. And I mean, why not, right? But one thing I saw is that you guys don't have English subtitles. Like for your, you kind of like keep it in your area. I've never like, I've had a hard time finding movies that are subtitles in English, and I don't know why. If anybody knows, tell me.
Get used to the sentence rhythm, and it just becomes easier and easier to understand that language. It's not that they're the same, they're certainly not, but learning Danish as a Swede feels more like converting your native language than starting from zero and learning an entirely new one.
Like
And
Portuguese and
sometimes,
Spanish.
when you hear Norwegian, it sounds just a little bit like someone putting on a silly voice while speaking a kind of children's secret language, where the secret is just to replace all the A's with E's at the end of words. You know, göra to göre, kvinna to kvinne, and so
Nice.
on. Other times, the grammar is slightly different, and because the rest of it sounds so similar, this difference feels odd and jarring. Like, in Swedish, we say min bil, my car, but in Norwegian, it's usually bilen min, with a possessive pronoun
wow.
after the noun, and the noun in the definite instead of indefinite form. Or you'll
Okay.
get a word that's kind of colloquial in Swedish, like snacka, which means to talk, but
Snacka.
often more like to chat. But the Norwegian equivalent snakke is just the standard word. Like, å snakke norsk is how you say to speak Norwegian. Or
Oh, that's
unfortunate
nice.
false friends, like snor, which
False
is Norwegian
friends.
for string, meaning snot in Swedish instead. And of course, since
Oh.
the rest of the words are just the same, the resulting sentence sounds a bit funny. I think to an extent, this
Guys,
is just inevitable.
Let me know some funny false friends. Let me know some funny false friends, because they're always funny. There's a lot of false friends from English to Portuguese as well, which I teach my students, and I always have a laugh. Like, I'll go with a simple, innocent one, like pretend. Pretend in Portuguese is fingir, okay? But that's not what I want to say. But when you say pretender means to intend. Pretender means to intend. So some people normally, a lot of people normally say, I pretend, while they're trying to say, I intend. So some people say, oh, I pretend to be a doctor, instead of saying, I intend to be a doctor. So I pretend to be a doctor is a crime, and it's an innocent, funny, false friend. But let me know any false friends that you have between Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish.
With closely related languages. I know I've heard Polish speakers make fun of how Czech sounds, and though I don't know exactly why that is, I imagine it stems from a similar uncanny valley-esque effect. The silly valley, I don't know. But there is one linguistic feature of Norwegian that stands out, one that pushes it to the next level
The stress?
of silliness. It's intonation. Different languages have different intonation
yes,
patterns over the course
intonation.
of sentences. These often change when emphasizing different words or phrases within the sentence, but English, for instance, usually has a pattern where in declarative statements the tone tends to fall slightly, but it tends to rise on questions. Swedish intonation is actually more complicated than I, as a native speaker,
That's the same as in
realized
Portuguese.
before researching this, but in most varieties, and at the very least in standard Swedish, it still has a downward tendency in statements. Vi går neråt på slutet av våra meningar. Norwegian also varies a lot by dialect, and obviously every sentence is different, but generally the pitch of a declarative statement rises.
It's like singing.
Hver eneste gang jeg skal ta toget til Oslo, det forsinket.
And observe the final syllable of certain phrases or clauses go sharply up.
Jeg våkna klokka 6:30 i dag. Til frokost spiste jeg 2 brødskiver med makrell i tomat. Jeg tok buss til universitetet.
This characteristic upward flick is, I think, what distinguishes my friend's perception of Norwegian from her perception of Danish, which also should fall into that uncanny valley for Swedes, but which my friend said she likes the sound of. And this phenomenon can be very clearly observed in the film we saw.
Jeg pleide å gå litt store T-skjorter før, så kanskje den passer.
Du likte å være festens midtpunkt?
Det är trevligt att träffa Margaretes vänner.
Wait, actually, what's that last one? What's up with that one? What's up with the...
Det är trevligt att träffa Margaretes vänner.
See, this character in this film is debilitatingly depressed. Or something, I don't know, I didn't pay that much attention. She is speaking sadly
Doesn't seem like
and
it's a good
lethargically
movie.
anyway, and my friend says she sounds like she's speaking Swedish. And she doesn't just sound like she's speaking Swedish. She is speaking Swedish. Scandinavian countries will often exchange actors for various productions, just chuck a Dane into a Swedish film or whatever, but that's not what this is. She isn't a native speaker. The actress is Norwegian and speaks Swedish in a Norwegian accent. That's what sounds a little off about it at first. The subtitles insist she's speaking Svensk, and she very clearly uses the word trevligt instead of the Norwegian hyggelig. The current Queen of Norway isn't Swedish, the actor isn't Swedish, this character never appears again in the film, and no explanation as to her Swedishness is ever given.
Why?
No, I can only think of one reason that they would make the Queen speak Swedish, and that is to make her sound more depressed. And I've had a Norwegian say this openly to me as well. Swedish is apparently just a more depressing language in their view.
Is it?
My hypothesis would be that this is because we go downward in our sentences as much as they go upward, but I'm not sure about that. Either way, since this character's only purpose in this film is to be depressed, I don't think it's far-fetched to say we're seeing a cultural association put on display here. One between Swedish and depression. At the end of the day, making fun of Norway and by extension the Norwegian language is basically just Swedish cultural practice, and to an extent the language also just sounds silly because all the jokes we're told say it sounds silly. It's similar, I think, to how English speakers always think German sounds so aggressive because they joke about that and put those most aggressive parts on display and prime each other to pick up on the aggressive features they hear and to interpret them as aggressive.
It does sound aggressive.
But maybe the number one reason we make fun of Norwegian isn't because they're happier than us and we're just jealous, or because we simply always have made fun of them for everything, but because our languages are so similar. It's like looking in the mirror, and we don't always like what we find. Norwegian and Swedish both have pitch accent, where every word has a set tone contour which, when combined with stress and intonation patterns, makes the sentence as a whole go up and down in a kind of weird way. They both have certain sounds that the rest of Europe also doesn't have. The thing is, I think Swedish sounds kind of silly to the rest of Europe. I think Norwegian and Swedish both do, and kind of for similar reasons. I don't know, you tell me, what are your subjective opinions about the native languages of millions of people? Anyway, I love Norwegian, I love how it sounds. Thank you to everyone who helped me make this video, and I will be back relatively soon with an actual video about actual linguistics.
Wow. That was really good. That's a great video. If you guys want to check it out, the link is in the description. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Every language has an intonation. Like Italian, da-da-da, da-da, da-da, da. Right? It has that da 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 da. So it depends on what you are like. If you're speaking English with an intonation, it will kind of, that's what makes it sound that language. So I think I understand what he's talking about, because Norwegians have the high, you know. I've been listening to Norwenglish. It's funny, you know, that intonation. It's funny to hear Norwenglish. I'm not making fun of Norwegian, by the way. I'm just imitating the Norwenglish that I'm listening to, okay? Just by the way, I don't want to offend anyone. Is it offensive if I speak Norwenglish? I don't know if that's any good. Can somebody rate my Norwenglish? Guys, by the way, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just imitating Kalle from the movie that I watched today. Anyways, I hope that isn't too bad. I'm gonna stop. Anyways, this was a great video, and I understand the whole intonation because I teach intonation. I'm an English teacher, and I teach intonation, and I teach everything that a student needs to sound more of that specific accent. Because an accent is one thing, and your Norwenglish is pretty good. Thank you. I had a question. Because Norwenglish sounds a little bit like Minnesota, you know, like a Canada, kind of like, I don't know if there is any connection. And I asked that during There's Something in the Barn today, because it kind of feels and sounds similar. But anyways, in my dialect, we go down in sound, not up. Okay. Yeah. It's funny because in Portuguese, we also go up. It's like, let me try to think of a sentence. You want to go? I will go if you want. It's like that. It's strange. And then if I add the accent, it's like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I don't know what you want from me. You understand? It's kind of like that. I don't know. It really goes up. That's the Brazilian accent. At least a lot of people who, a lot of my students sound like that. They're like, I don't know. It goes kind of up. Don't you? And the T is like a chi sound. But anyways, as I said, I'm not making fun of Brazilians either. I'm just saying that it is what it is. From my understanding in the movie, Kalle is doing an Oslo accent compared to his normal one. He's from Bergen. He sounds quite different from that when speaking English normally. Yeah, he does. Minnesota has a lot of people with Norwegian descent. Yeah, so it kind of feels like that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you guys want to request a video, just go over here, buy me a coffee, or click over here, or watch more of my playlists over here. Take care for now. Bye-bye.